Rambin. Leah Freeman.
Here.
Speaker Todd Gilbert. Eva Tucardi.
Present.
Senator Howell. Delegate Kilgore. Delegate Wright. Doug Warnerina. Secretary Barrett.
Present.
Senator Ruff.
Here.
Rod Stottlemyre. Robin Sullenberger.
Here.
Leah Tiziani.
Here.
Marilyn West. Joe Wilson.
Here.
Debbie Nguyen. Here we have a.
Yay, thank you all. We have several,
Motions I'd like to make now.
we have several new people on our board, both on, and I'd like to welcome them both from our board and from the DHCD. First, I'd like to welcome to our board, Secretary of Commerce and Trade, Karen Merrick. Thank you for being here. Welcome. And our Secretary of Finance, Steve Cummings. We'd also like to welcome, who's not present, but the Speaker of the House of Delegates is here. He made his appointments just a few days ago, and they include Secretary Todd Gilbert, and he made his appointments. Delegate Barry Knight, Chairman of the House Committee on Appropriations, and delegates Carrie Kilgore and Terry Austin. Also new to Go Virginia is the Director of DHCD, Brian Horn. Now, just so you know that all good things emanate from Roanoke, both Sarah and Brian, it turns out, are from not just Roanoke, but Salem, which is where I live. So with that in mind, let's do some power work here, Sarah.
Okay. All right. This special board meeting was requested to take action on 2 time-sensitive applications. Those have been explained to you. We'd like to just quickly thank members who participated in the work groups in reviewing these applications: Jim Dyke, Leah Freeman, Robin Sullenberger, and Marilyn West. These applications were also reviewed by subject matter experts: Tammy Bresky, who's on the DHCD body team, our broadband specialist; John Loftus with VDP, who supported our Sites and Buildings evaluation; and Amy McCarthy, who's with Gen Edge, who provided a fair amount of input on the pharmaceutical manufacturing initiative. So we are going to just share a little bit about these projects. The first one, and Chair Agee, you would prefer to take a single vote on both unless a member wants to withdraw?
If that's all right with everyone, that's my preference.
Okay. All right, so for the first one is in the Workforce Development Investment Strategy. This comes to us from Region 4, a total request of $482,330. John Tyler Community College, Becoming Brightpoint, is requesting these funds to meet the workforce needs of an emerging and really exciting advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing sector. At our last meeting, we heard from Jeff Gallagher on a panel about the work that's happening there. There are a number of outcomes associated with this project, including the creation of 2 new manufacturing technician training programs specific to this industry. This project builds from a planning grant that was awarded by Go Virginia in 2020, in which VCU really set forward a strategy. Since that time, 2 companies have announced investments in Petersburg to seed this new industry cluster. Investments have exceeded $150 million. There's been more than 342 jobs created already. In 2021, Activation Capital was awarded a grant to execute the strategy. In December, these project partners were successful in securing an award for the Build Back Better grant and eligible now for phase 2 funding from USEDA. This particular award will serve as match for that large grant request. That application's due on March 15th. Based on the progression and success of past projects, the work group discussion and application review, staff recommends this project for approval. Okay, if I might continue. The second one is a statewide competitive application. In the sites and infrastructure investment category, it supports a middle mile broadband construction build This is being led by Region 3, and partnering is Region 4. Mid-Atlantic Broadband Communities, MBC is requesting $5 million to build 6 middle-mile backbone segments that will provide connectivity and diversity for economic development purposes in 9 localities, including the counties of Mecklenburg, Lunenburg, Prince Edward, Nottoway, Dinwiddie, Prince George, Sussex, Greensville, and the city of Petersburg. There are a number of really exciting connection points for this project, just very briefly. Supporting the continued growth of data center operations in Mecklenburg County, supporting additional broadband capacities at Fort Pickett, which has been expanding its activities, enabling access, open access middle mile connectivity. It will enhance and in fact complement DHCD body grants, which are very focused on last mile. Build diverse fiber to enhance the marketability of a 1600 CSX certified Mid-Atlantic Advanced Manufacturing Center mega site, also known as MAMAC in Greensville County. It will build new diverse fiber to the recently established 280-acre Heartland Innovation Technology Park in Prince Edward County, which is currently being considered to market for data centers. It will build new fiber to a 595-acre site in Sussex County over existing railroad right-of-way, speed time to market, and serve that site for new industrial development. And further, it will support the Advanced Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Project. There is a slide in front of you that shows these 6 segments, just gives you a little sense of kind of the geographic impact of this particular initiative. This application does come with letter of supports from Dinwiddie, Greensville, Lunenburg, Mecklenburg, Prince Edward, Prince George, Sussex, and the city of Petersburg. Mid-Atlantic Broadband is submitting $1 million in match for this project. To meet the one-to-one match requirement, this applicant will need to be successful with a US EDA grant request, also due this month. They're requesting $4 million, which meets the statutory requirements for the Go Virginia program. Now, statewide competitive projects have a local match requirement that is not in code. It is something the state board implemented early on in the program, and the requirement is 20% of the total match has to be local, okay, meaning non-state resources, and provided by at least 2 localities. The regions have requested a waiver on the local match requirement that was provided to you, and it's in the packet here today. Based on application review, staff finds it does meet the statutory one-to-one match requirement. It does not meet the board established minimum local match requirements for statewide competitive application. Based on the economic opportunity described by the applicant and the impact particularly on these large sites in regions 3 and 4, the board may wish to approve the waiver request and conditionally approve the project based on a positive decision from USEDA.
Thank you, Sarah. And so just to recap that last project, this will be, part of the reason we're meeting here today is so that this can be submitted to the USEDA. It will require that match, so approval of that for it to go forward. We will need to approve a waiver of that 20% match. But this is such a big project with enormous potential that my personal recommendation is that we move forward with the waiver. Are there any questions about either project?
I have a question, Madam.
Yes.
Does the railroad go to the port from these sites in this particular area of Virginia?
I cannot answer that question. We may have a member in the gallery. The rail crossings that need to be made by the broadband infrastructure are specific to, were referenced specific to the one site.
The one side.
Does anyone here have that answer?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, Chad Harrison with Mid-Atlantic Broadband. I believe the routes from 460, the railroads, go all the way. I know they go into Norfolk areas. So I'm pretty sure that's.
Go into the international.
I think the regional sites, CSX, but generally they run north-south and north-south.
Yeah.
I think a carrier could get to the ports by whatever.
But I do think that's important. To link all of this together.
Good point,
Yeah.
Eva. Good point. Jim?
That's not so much a question, but just as, I think we need to take advantage of this opportunity since we have some new members who are members of the Assembly and administration. Going back to the first project as it relates to the pharmaceutical industry. This is part of our effort to build the talent pipeline and to look at things like career preparation, getting people ready for jobs and addressing dual enrollment, which is absolutely critical to grow our economy and to get that talent pipeline going. And one of the issues we know the Assembly is grappling with right now is whether or not to continue funding for this particular program that feeds into that. So this is another example of how important this is. And we would hope that we would get support as this goes forward and as you consider your future action. We would greatly appreciate your support.
Sort of building success on success, because this has been a really remarkable project. I'm sorry you weren't here at our last meeting because we had a really in-depth conversation about it. It's fascinating.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
But through my previous work with the Virginia Ready Initiative, I am familiar with this, this need and opportunity for this talent pipeline for the pharmaceutical industry, which is very promising for Virginia. My question is, with regard to the matching funds, the 246,000, are those matching funds coming from that grant from the government, or what is the source of the federal government, or what is the
No.
source?
In this case, the match is coming from local sources, including a significant contribution from the Cameron Foundation,
Okay.
which is central there in Petersburg. So yes, the match for this project is non-federal,
Okay.
but locally generated, if that
And
makes sense.
And so if they get the federal grant, does that change these numbers? Because I thought you had said that they were applying for something from the federal government.
They are, so they became eligible for the Phase 2 Build Back Better Challenge. And so this will serve as match for that particular grant request, which is approximately $80 million.
So you add.
This will
add the-
leverage.
This doesn't go away with the federal match.
It
Okay,
does not.
thank you.
Yeah,
And in fact,
it's
that's
not
part of our
dependent.
requirement.
Part of the requirement. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, Leah and I were.
Yes, Don.
Don. My real name is Don, by the way. Leah and I were part of the initial review of this project, and to say that it's impressive is a vast understatement. I'm not typically a big fan of waivers, because I think we set precedents sometimes that you don't want to live with, but in this particular case, the impact is so enormous. And I mean, broadband has been the conversation du jour for a very long time, along with talent pipeline and site development and everything else that we've tried to do. And I think this one really deserves our rapt attention and our approval.
Thank you, Robin. I completely agree. 'Cause I'm very reluctant to do waivers. We had quite a conversation about that. Yes, Senator.
If I understand correctly, we need to have a motion to waive that. And I would so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
And I have to identify, I'm on the NBC board, and so I'll abstain.
Understands? Is
One
there,
question, do we need to add a caveat there that is contingent upon the EDA?
Yes.
yes, we do.
That would be
Right.
for the file. Approved.
Okay.
I think Senator Ruff is proposing we do two things. One, we
Okay.
acknowledge and
Acknowledge the
Sorry.
waiver.
waiver, and then
All right.
vote on the application.
So let's, any other discussion about the waiver here?
Should the waiver be recorded in the minutes, the rationale for the waiver, so that there's some future thing that we can point
Yep.
to, so when someone comes with something that we don't agree to, a waiver, that's noted in the record somewhere.
We will carefully write that.
I think Mr. Sullenberger's rationale is the unique circumstances presented by the application to extend broadband.
Chairman,
Yes, Leah.
just to add a comment about the resources in this project is with our grant coming in and the federal resources, it actually releases some body grants, which are the state resources for broadband expansion that would have to go into this work anyway, so they can be diverted to other projects in other parts of the state. So we're kind of moving some money around, but spreading our resources, our Commonwealth resources, into other parts of the area that don't have this type of opportunity. So.
We have a motion on the table, and any other discussion about the waiver? All right, let's call for vote. All those in favor, we don't have to do roll call.
No.
Thank goodness. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, yes.
On the broadband, as we talked about in our meeting, with IIJA coming, what's the timing of the implementation of this? And is there the possibility, if we are win awards in that could fund this, that this could be replaced with federal funding and the dollars returned?
Right. I'm afraid I can't fully answer that question. I can tell you that the federal resources, which the state has already received, could not be used for this type of middle mile. I know we've had some discussions about that, so this is a unique use. I might ask Tad, who's in the audience, to address that. It with permission, Madam Chair. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the federal IIJA programs, those NOFOs, Notice of Funding Opportunity, come out May 15th. So we'll know the rules for that program at that time. And I believe they are accepting applications through maybe September, October this year.
So is this written in a way that if those funds do become available, that we could release the commitment of this, the dollars go back?
I can't speak to that because I haven't seen the notice of funding opportunity with those types of details yet. So I'm not sure who an eligible applicant is for those resources.
And I don't know that we'll know until you see that, which will be later. I just say, that would people agree that if that could be funded completely out of a federal grant, which we will pay for, that we can eliminate this obligation and use the dollars elsewhere?
The one thing I will mention is, in my experience, federal grants, you can't match federal with federal. And because such a significant portion of this match is USEDA funds, I believe it would not be permissible to use USEDA funds, which are the financial contributions here, to draw down additional financial resources.
Okay, well, I can go to Jen DC is in DOT is running the whole IIJA process, and she was in DC, part of writing the IIJA Act. So I might just check and come back to you.
Absolutely. That sounds great.
Madam Chair, again,
Yes, Ted?
the ETI program will require a match as well. So there's a 70-30, so 70% federal, 30%.
Okay, sounds like.
And you can very much leverage $5 million for a $20 million. That's.
Okay, Jim.
Yeah, once again, this is sort of a learning point here in the discussion about broadband. One of the things I want to note is that there's still some, and this ties into power pipeline, because we're all in favor of broadband and we know we need to have it in the Commonwealth. One issue that's not gotten as much attention as it should have is that we really do need to do a better job of preparing workers to go into broadband. And now this is a particular interest in Ben's part of the state, that there are some programs now trying to get people prepared and in the pipeline to provide broadband, because it's great for us to have a lot of funding, but if we don't have the workers that can actually do it, we're going to have problems. So I just use that because, once again, have some new members who might be in a position to address that over the next few days. So I just want to.
Thank you, Jim. So we are going to lose those new members in just about 3 minutes. So I would like to ask for a motion to approve both projects.
So
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Both motions passed. Thank you all for being here. Our meeting is adjourned.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Sorry, I know you needed. No, no,